Welcome to Missions Life, where we share resources and encouragement for current missionaries, future missionaries, and those praying for missionaries. Missions can be hard, and we want to help you face the challenges of life, leadership, and ministry. We want your life to bear fruit for the gospel wherever you are. I'm Kyle Farran, here with my co-host and wife, Heather. Hi, everyone. Before we jump in, I want to let you know that this is a podcast episode originally recorded last year on grit and resilience. And I'm reposting it here as we begin a new year for a couple of reasons. First, because learning how to endure challenges with grit and resilience helps prepare us for the inevitable difficulties we're going to face. Leadership, ministry, and life all require staying power. And this episode is just as relevant now as when it was first recorded. Second, because the themes that I talk about here are central to my upcoming book, Godly Grit, which is scheduled to release on March 3rd, 2026. This episode gives you just a quick snapshot of what's going to be explored more deeply in the book. If you find this helpful, I hope you check out Godly Grit when it becomes available. Now, let's get into the episode. Today on the podcast, I want to share on the topic of how to build strength, resilience, and grit for life, leadership, and ministry. And I don't know where God has you right now or where he may take you as you follow him. But if you're going to follow him, you're probably not sitting there thinking, hey, this is going to be easy, right? No, it's not. It's going to involve difficulties. It's going to involve trials. And following God is really not the easy path, but it leads to a great destination. You're going to face challenges. You're going to face difficulties. But if you expect them and you prepare for them, they are a lot easier to handle. And this today is really the podcast episode I wish I had before I went into missions. In missions and leadership, you're going to face problems, lots of them. So what mindsets and perspectives will build your strength, resilience, and grit to help you endure those challenges? This is some of the content I've shared with our missionaries, and it's going to be the foundation of my next book. So why is strength, resilience, and grit important? Well, it's essential to be able to keep you in ministry. In our role, one of our joys is building into the missionaries and seeing them thrive in ministry. And one of the things that we've watched far too many times is that people go into ministry and they aren't ready for the challenges, though. They aren't prepared for things to be hard. They get discouraged, they give up, and they quit. And there's always a front reason, but the back reason, the real reason, is that they didn't think it'd be so hard. It's kind of like the demotivational poster on despair.com that says, challenges. I expected times like this, but never thought they'd be so bad, so long, and so frequent. And for those of you who are listening, I don't want that to happen to you. I want you to last the long haul in ministry, wherever God leads you. Now, just a caveat with that is sometimes God does bring circumstances in our life where we do have to go off the mission field. And that's not failure. But there are preventable reasons, and there are things that are outside of our control that do bring us back. And so there's just a distinction there between those two things. We're really talking about those preventable reasons and how we handle those challenges and get discouraged by them. So this podcast is about having the right perspective on challenges that can build our strength, resilience, and grit. So those three things, strength, resilience, and grit. Strength is about the ability to endure and handle tough situations with resolve. Resilience is about how well and how quickly you recover from setbacks. And grit is about long-term perseverance and sustained effort towards goals despite challenges and slow progress. And these traits work together to help you endure the challenges of life, leadership, and ministry to become the person that God made you to be. Strength, resilience, and grit are absolutely critical for your success and longevity in church planting, leadership, and missions. And here's why. When you start in leadership and ministry, your challenges, unfortunately, they're probably going to double overnight. Challenges are a regular part of leadership and ministry. And I don't say this to discourage you, but rather just to prepare you so you're ready for it. And challenges are what most often will rob you of joy. If we have the wrong perspective on challenges, it will absolutely drain our joy and our strength. But the opposite is also true. If we have the right perspective on challenges, it transforms our challenges into possibilities. So do you want strength and joy in the midst of challenges? Do you want to build resilience to face challenges? Do you want to grow your courage and overcome fear? I know for myself, I do. And in the past couple of years, these perspectives that I'm going to share with you today, they have been like water for my soul. They have absolutely changed my life, and I truly believe that they can change yours also. I've been praying for those of you who are listening that these perspectives will help to build your resilience and prepare you for life and ministry. You see, we all face challenges, but everyone responds to them differently. You've probably noticed this. Some people just give up and quit. Other people will moan and complain. You know who those people are in your life. Some people seek attention and sympathy. Some people will panic and worry. And yet other people quietly endure the problem with calm courage. Why? What makes the difference? What's different about people with strength and resilience to face the challenges? Where do they find that reservoir of strength and resilience? And the bigger question for us is, if they can find it, can we? And I believe we can. I believe that you can. And when you do, it will absolutely change your life. Church planning, leadership, and missions, they're hard. They're not going to get any easier. And sure, some things will get easier as we grow. But if we lead and work with people, you're going to be dealing with challenges and problems. And so in life, we always need to deal with challenges. So the real question is, what's our goal? If no problems or maintain status quo is your goal, leadership and ministry are the wrong role for you. Your perspective sets you up for failure. But if you feel called to lead change and live for Christ, then the key is not getting rid of challenges. It's to become more resilient, strong, courageous, and calm in the midst of those challenges. So if we're going to last the long haul in ministry and leadership, the right perspectives on challenges are absolutely essential. So what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to look at three key areas. The first is that God is at work around you. Second, God is at work in you. And third, God is at work through you. And under each of these areas, we're going to look at two different perspectives. So a total of 6 perspectives. But the three key ones are God is at work around you, in you, and through you. And the foundation of all these perspectives is the belief, 1, in the sovereignty of God, and 2, the goodness of God. And everything grows out of these beliefs. Nothing gets to us that doesn't pass through the hands of God. God is sovereign. And second, nothing passes through his hands that's not for his glory and our eternal good. God is good. The perspectives on challenges that can build resilience. The first is God is at work around you to glorify himself. Challenges are a part of God's plan to glorify himself. 2 Corinthians 12, 9 and 10, Paul writes, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, and my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I'm weak, then I am strong." Also in Judges 7:2, the Lord said to Gideon, "The people with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hand, lest Israel boast over me, saying, my own hand has saved me." So in both of these passages, we see that challenges bring us to the end of our strength and the beginning of God's strength. Like Gideon had too many people, and that was going to get in the way of God's power being seen. Sometimes God allows challenges to get too big for us, to get impossible, so that his power is clearly seen. And so what happens when we come to the end of our strength? Well, we fully rely on God. And when God's power is shown, he gets all the glory. And it's very, very clear to us and to others that all the power was from God. Now, as you hear that, do you hear an issue, though? We don't like being brought to the end of our strength and ability, do we? Gideon was afraid. You remember the Israelites at the Red Sea? They were a little panicky. They were afraid. When we see challenges coming, we're often just like the Israelites. We're afraid. But God doesn't want us to fear because God is allowing those challenges to happen. And those challenges set the stage for God to show his power. So when challenges begin, we should think to ourselves, I don't know what God's doing, but I do know that he is doing something and he has a plan. Don't focus on the problems. Focus on God. Just an example of this. One time, a ministry that we helped oversee was trying to be shut down by the country's government. And this would have had a massive impact on our family. And we just didn't know what to do. We tried everything that we could do in our strength. But the verse that God brought great encouragement with was 2 Chronicles 20, verse 12. For we are powerless against this great horde that is coming against us. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. You see, our courage isn't based on knowing the plan or the outcome. It's based on knowing the one who controls the outcome. And I noticed something in my life that you may be able to relate to. I'm usually very confident if I think I know what the plan is because things feel predictable. But what happens when the plan starts to fall apart? Well, that's when fear starts. And here's what God taught me through this. If I start to fear when plans change, then my faith wasn't based on a person. It was based on my approval of the plan. It was like I approved the plan because I liked it. But when God changed it, I was fearful it wouldn't work. Illustration of this, our family, when we were in South Africa, would often go to the game park. And one day we were driving through the game park doing a self-drive, and we came up over a ridge, and there in a field was a black rhino. Now, black rhinos perpetually wake up on the wrong side of the bed. And this one must have looked at our car that day, and from 40 yards out says, "Car, charge," and started in a full sprint towards us. Now, internally, what's going on in my head is this. I'm remembering that 3 years ago, I'd been in a motorcycle accident, and as a result, I had done some reading on motorcycle safety to enhance my ability to stay alive. And one of the things I learned through that reading was that when a dog charges a motorcycle, you don't actually speed up because the dog, if it has space, will triangulate on your new location. It'll meet you where you're going to be. So what you actually do is you slow down. You draw the dog in and you let the dog triangulate on where it thinks you're going to be. And then at the last minute, you speed up and the dog doesn't have time to re-triangulate and meet you at a new location. So I thought to myself, 30-pound dog, 3,000-pound rhino, same trigonometry. So I started putzing along, and this rhino was charging 30 yards, 20 yards. He is coming. Now, my family, still in the car, are freaking out. My kids are jumping over the seats, trying to get to the other side of the car, away from the impact. My wife's hitting me on the arm, saying, "Go, go, 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 go." All I have time to say is, "I got this." I am putzing along 15 yards. Wife's still hitting me on the arm. 10 yards out, I punch it. Rhino misses us by about 5 yards, slides past the back of the car, rolls down a hill. It was so angry. And we got away. Now, I knew the plan there. So I was less nervous. There was still 3,000 pounds of muscle charging us. So there's a little bit of a raised heart rate. But my family, not so much. They didn't know the plan. They were freaking out. So many times we want to know the plan, but God doesn't always explain it to us. He wants us to trust him, not approve his plan. God's got this. And in this story, I had a little bit of knowledge. I don't want to be the hero here, but God is infinitely wiser and infinitely more powerful. We can trust him. And faith looks at a person, not a plan. We don't need to know the plan. We just need to know that God has a plan and he's going to accomplish it. And it's a good and a loving plan. Great verses to memorize. Isaiah 55, 8 and 9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Sometimes God waits till we have no hope, until our weakness is fully evident. Then it's absolutely clear whose power it was. He gets all the glory. So the first perspective is that God is at work around you to glorify himself. And challenges are a part of God's plan to glorify himself. Are you keeping your eyes on God or on what you think the plan should be? The second perspective, God is at work around you to accomplish his plan. Challenges are the path. In John 16:33, I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In this world you'll have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world. 1 Peter 4:12 and 13, Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice insofar as you share in Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. Think about the servants that God used in the Bible. Joseph, David, Moses, Daniel, Noah, Isaiah, Paul. All of them had to endure massive challenges, which both prepared them to be used by God and also prepared the path. God uses challenges. Challenges set the stage for God to work, and challenges train them and provided opportunities for God to work. The challenges were the path. They're a part of life. I used to think, hey, if I can just get past this problem, things will be better. And I would push and push to get through a challenge, only to get through one challenge and one problem and to see another one on the horizon. I came across a Haitian proverb that really helped me on my perspective. And it was this: behind mountains are more mountains. If your goal is to maintain the status quo, you're going to be disappointed. Life is full of challenges. And we just need to come to grips with reality and stop panicking or living in a delusion. Hoping for a problem-free future sets us up for major disappointment. But having a realistic mindset prepares us for the future. And this simple reminder has honestly just been absolutely life-changing for me. Behind mountains are more mountains. If we're hoping for no challenges, we're going to be disappointed. But if we're ready for more mountains, we're going to pace ourselves and we're going to be emotionally prepared for challenges. And just an application of this truth that's been helpful for me is remembering that challenges are the path and that God is the one that solves the challenges means that I don't need to fix every problem. A helpful phrase is this: work the process, not the problem. And this helps me to focus on the next steps that I need to take. Fixing the problem is not in my wheelhouse to be able to do. I need to work the steps to be able to do my responsibility. It's God's responsibility to solve the problem. And so a question to think about is part of our process worrying about the outcome? I'm going to save you the suspense on that. No, it's not. God's not up in heaven wringing his hands or getting an ulcer over the challenges. He's not worried about it. Is he hurrying about, frantically trying to accomplish his plan? No, he knows how it's going to work out. A great example of this, in the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus tested Philip. It said in John 6:5-6, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so these people may eat?" He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. You see, challenges reveal our need for God. When we see how impossible a problem is to overcome, it tests our faith. Challenges are opportunities for us to trust God. That line in the verse says, so powerful, for he himself knew what he would do. You see, in every problem that we face, God already has a plan. When he lets us see and feel the problem. And when he does that, he's testing us and he's growing our faith. Will we respond in faith or fear? Peace or worry? You see, if we have a fear problem, we have a faith problem. Don't focus on the problem. Focus on the provider. The challenges are already solved in God's mind, but they test our faith. He already knows what he's going to do. He himself knew what he would do. And this is just as true today as it was in the feeding of the 5,000. Illustration of this in our own life. One time I was worried that we wouldn't be able to get our kids' visas renewed to Portugal because some of the laws had changed. But later that day, when I was on the computer trying to renew online, it worked. God had already solved that problem. And sometimes we can create a problem in our mind that may not actually be a problem. Or in our mind, it's much larger than it is in reality. And here's what's so important to remember. Even though the problem may be a figment of our imagination, our brain and our body and our heart, they don't know the difference between it. They don't know the difference between a real problem and an imaginary one. And I never realized that for so many years. And this has just been absolutely life-changing, because when you're worried about something that hasn't happened yet, it's not even a real thing. Like, it's literally the only place it exists in the world is in your brain. And you conjure up an idea of what you think it might be like in your mind. But what happens is your body freaks out, even though this event has never happened. You can have a panic attack, you can have an ulcer, whatever. It freaks out. You can have actual physical manifestations and problems in your body, even though the event only exists in your mind. Your body responds as if the threat was real. So in our minds and emotions, we may be carrying about countless challenges that will never exist in reality. Most of the things that we worry about never come to pass, except in our mind and our body, which actually lives the stress as if that event were real. Mark Twain had a great quote, "I've suffered a great many catastrophes in my life. Most of them never happened." Sometimes challenges, they are just in our mind. And the emotional roller coaster that we put ourselves through really accomplishes nothing important. Worry, complaining, fear, these do absolutely nothing to help resolve a problem or challenge. They are, however, very effective at two different things. First, they make you discontent and miserable. And second, they make God look little. Because when we whine and complain and worry when things don't go our way, it makes him look very small. What do you need to tell yourself when a negative or fearful thought enters your head? Be ready with clear statement of truth to calm you down and redirect your thoughts. An example of this, God's got this. Or the verses, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'll never leave you or forsake you. Preload that background message or a verse that you want to say to yourself, to speak truth to yourself. And as you change your perspective, it changes your life. God is at work around you to accomplish his plan. Challenges are the path. They're already solved in God's mind, but they are going to test your faith. Do you see challenges as a part of God's path, or are you surprised by them? Do you remember that God already has your problem solved? Think about that. So the second main area we're going to look at is God is at work in you. You see, God uses challenges to grow us. When you think about an oak tree can't avoid the storms, but it can grow deep roots and a strong trunk to withstand them. Same storm, different results. And we can do the same thing to face the storms of life, leadership, and ministry. We can grow deep roots and a strong trunk. So the third perspective is that God is at work in you to strengthen you. Challenges make us stronger. James 1:2-4, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. We shouldn't fear challenges. We should actually fear comfort, because comfort keeps us weak. Challenges make us stronger. There's an African proverb that says, smooth seas don't make skillful sailors. We need challenges to grow us. And challenges come in the form of problems, trials, crises, annoyances, change plans, failed plans. They can hurt us and they can test our limits, but they are for our good. As I look back at my life over the last 10 or 20 years, I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't faced the challenges that I did. And I can see how those challenges They've made me who I am. Without the challenges, I wouldn't have grown stronger. I often say of trials and challenges, never chosen, but never traded. I wouldn't choose the challenges, but after I've gone through them, I'd never trade them because of what God did in me. I've been exercising regularly for well over 30 years. And physical exercise, when you think about that, it isn't always fun, is it? To get stronger, you have to push yourself. You have to stress your body to the point where it says, whoa, that was hard. That was too hard. I need to build stronger muscles so the next time I can handle that load. Exercise is uncomfortable because it pushes your body to the limit, but it makes us stronger. And challenges, they're like God's gym. They prepare us for his plan. If we want an easier life, easier ministry, we don't need fewer challenges. We need to get stronger. And just like lifting weights or exercising makes it easier the next time, facing challenges makes it easier the next time. We often say that we want to be used by God, but God's path involves challenges. And so to be used, we need to be willing to endure the things that strengthen us and grow us. Challenges are the path to greater usefulness. Our challenges today, they prepare us for challenges tomorrow. Challenges make us stronger. Now, most of the time, we think that our biggest challenges are the challenges that we're facing, like the actual problems. But the reality is that the external challenges are not our biggest problem. They simply reveal our biggest problem. And our biggest problem is inside of us. In Joshua 1:9, God told Joshua, "Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." You see, God allows challenges. God could have wiped out the Philistines in a single word, but he didn't. He let Joshua and the Israelites go into battle. He let them sweat. He let them fight. Challenges are not the problem. God allows those challenges because they help us overcome a bigger problem. Inner weakness, fear, lack of faith, and lack of courage. Saying that challenges are the problem is like walking into the gym and saying, hey, you know what the problem is here? Is all these weights are just too heavy. We just need to switch them all out and go those little pink Barbie weights. And then everyone will be really happy because they're moving stuff. No, in the gym, the problem is our physical weakness and mental fear. The gym exists to overcome our weaknesses. And in the same way, God allows challenges to help us overcome our weaknesses and fear. Fear is the root problem. Just a personal example of this. I am naturally a conflict avoider. I don't seek it out. I don't enjoy it. But in leadership, you have to address challenges. And if I, as a leader, let things go unchecked on our teams, it'd be unloving to the team. But I've always been kind of fearful of conflict and taken the ignore it and hope it goes away approach instead of a more direct approach. And during a coaching class I was taking, one of the questions they shared with us was this: what's behind that fear? Or what's behind that emotion? I took some time to really think about that for myself. And I realized that for myself, the root of the fear of conflict was getting backed into a corner or agreeing to something without having time to really think about it. So that insight allowed me to create a simple rule. If I'm ever feeling pressured or just not at peace about a decision, I just hit the pause button. I say, hey, you know what? Let's take some time to pray about this, and then we'll make a decision. Now, to you, that may seem like a really small thing, but I want you to notice something here, the difference between dealing with the problem and dealing with the fear. And this may help you in dealing with something that you fear. Now, you may not have the same fear, but you may have a different concern, a different problem, a different fear. So the transferable principle you can learn from is this: when you deal with a problem, you only deal with that specific problem. But when you deal with the root of fear and figure out what belief or value is behind that fear, you deal with a whole category of challenges. And this can be absolutely life-changing. When you can identify and overcome a fear, many challenges either vanish or are greatly reduced in size. God is at work in you to strengthen you. Challenges, they're not the problem. They're there to strengthen you. Weaknesses and fear are the root problem. So deal with that fear. If you're facing a problem that's causing fear, take some time to journal or think about this question. What's behind that fear or emotion? Think through what belief, what value, what unmet expectation, what identity is being threatened, and is it correct? Our fear may be based on a false belief, value, identity, expectation, or perspective. Dealing with the root of fear will change your life. The fourth perspective, God is at work in you to clarify your purpose. Challenges reveal our real goal and purpose. So do we long to be comfortable or for the comfort of God? Philippians 4:11, I've learned in whatever situation I am to be content. And in Philippians 3:8, I count everything as loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord. For his sake I have suffered the loss of all things and count them as rubbish in order that I may gain Christ. Too often, our heart longs for comfortable circumstances and the absence of challenges rather than rejoicing in God with us in the midst of challenges. Challenges reveal our real goal and our purpose. A little story about this. When we lived in South Africa, we'd go camping every summer up in the Drakensberg Mountains after a family holiday. And every year, it rained for a few days. Now, when you're camping, though, what's your goal? Your goal is to stay dry. So your definition of success could be summed up in this: stay dry, stay warm. And what's the enemy? Rain, wind, cold. One year, though, I wanted to hike up to the top of the Tugela waterfall, which is the second highest waterfall in the world. And the stipulations were, anyone that wanted to go, we were not turning back unless there was a blizzard. Anything short of that, we kept hiking. And the other rule, no complaining. So my daughter Abby and I did the hike, and on the first half of the day, we walked through a rain cloud and dense fog. You could hardly see, 30 yards in front of you. And we climbed up wet chain ladders, made it to the top. But you know what the difference was? The rain didn't bother me like it did at the campsite. Why? Because we had a different goal. Rain was no longer the problem. Our goal was to get to the top. It wasn't to stay warm and dry. So we were accomplishing our goal. You see, the difference is that campers want comfort. Climbers want the summit. Sure, it's inconvenient, but it's not detracting or getting in the way of your goal. And so in life, do you want to camp or you want to climb? And by changing your goal, you totally change your perspective on your circumstances. So many times, the reason that we view something is a problem is because it's our goal. We want comfort. We want people to like us. We want to maintain the status quo. But if we can keep our eyes focused on the right goal and purposes, the goal of knowing Christ and making him known, then many times the things that we thought were challenges, they just fade away. The circumstances may not change. You might be tromping through the rain of life, but when you have a clear goal and purpose, you have a reason to ignore the rain or whatever the discomfort or problem may be, because our goal or destination makes it worth it. 2 Corinthians 4:16-18, so we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light and momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. Are you camping or climbing? If we are loving comfort, everything that threatens our comfort is viewed as a problem. Every inconvenience is blown into cosmic proportions because it threatens our comfort, our self-image, our power, or something that we value. But when your goal and your purpose changes, you're able to be renewed day by day, even in the midst of challenges. When we focus on our purpose, we tap into deep reservoirs of strength. We're motivated to keep going no matter what. Viktor Frankl, who survived 3 Nazi death camps, wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." Having purpose allows us to endure struggles and difficulties because we know they're not wasted. They have a reason, a why. When we live for Christ, we have a purpose that matters. Philippians 1:20 and 21, as it is my eager expectation and hope that I will not be at all ashamed, but that with full courage, now as always, Christ will be honored in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Having a purpose brings hope. It means our life, our labor, and our challenges are not wasted. God is at work in you to clarify your purpose. And challenges reveal our real goal and our purpose. So the question to think about is your goal comfort or Christ? Next, we're going to look at God's work through you. So not only is God at work around you and in you, God is also using the challenges that you faced to do something through you. So the fifth perspective, God's at work through you to prove that He is an unshakable foundation. Challenges are an opportunity to be unshakable in our courage, faith, and joy. And without challenges, you wouldn't have the opportunity to courageously follow God into impossible situations that are outside of your control. When Joab, the commander of David's army, was fighting, he said to his brother, if the Syrians are too strong for me, then you shall help me. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will come help you. Be of good courage, and let us be courageous for our people and for the cities of our God. And may the Lord do what seems good to him. 2 Samuel 10:11 and 12. Challenges force us to face fear. And courage is defined as the ability to do something that frightens one. Courage is overcoming fear. And one of the ways that we live out our faith is to act with courage. Will we be controlled by fear or courage? Joab in the story had a genuine problem. He was battling against two armies, but there was another battle, a battle going on inside of him. It was an inner battle, a battle with fear. And fear, it attacks us. If we give in, fear wins, fear reigns. But if we fight fear, we fight with courage, and we let courage and peace reign. Courage trusts God for the results and confidently moves forward in action. Joab said, may the Lord do what seems good to him. What's interesting here is that courage is also good for others. Joab said, let us be courageous for our people. Courage is contagious. And unfortunately, so is fear. When you walk in courage, you give courage to other people. Others draw courage from your courage. And your example helps others face challenges. Think about Hebrews 11. We draw encouragement from others who faced great challenges with faith and courage. And it gives us hope that we can also do the same. Others are looking to you for courage. When God sent Joshua into battle, what did he repeat 3 times? Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. God wants his leader to be strong and courageous. That's what he wants of us. When our courage is unshakable, it shows that God is bigger than our challenges. It proves that he is an unshakable foundation. In Psalm 112, 6-8, it says, for the righteous will never be moved. He will be remembered forever. He is not afraid of bad news. His heart is firm, trusting in the Lord. His heart is steady. He will not be afraid until he looks in triumph on his adversaries. You notice that description there? Not afraid of bad news. A steady heart, never moved. Do you want those to describe you? I know I do. We don't need to fear because he's in control. It says his heart is firm, trusting in the Lord. We don't need to fear because God's in control. Having a firm heart comes from trusting in the Lord. Courage is rooted in faith. And if we're easily shaken, it makes God look small. It makes him look weak. But having faith and courage makes God look great. Others can't see God, but they can measure his greatness by the measure of our faith. When challenges don't cause us to fear, but other people are panicking, it shows that our God is bigger than the challenges. Not only do your courage and faith make God look great, so does your joy. Philippians 4:4 says, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. When our joy remains in the midst of problems, it shows that our joy isn't based on circumstances, but on the unchangeable God. In these times, our joy can only be explained as coming from God. Because if our circumstances change and our joy is constant, other people can see that it's not based on those circumstances. God is the source of our joy and our delight. And even though everything else is shaken, God never does. And therefore, our joy and our delight can be unshakable, even when all else is shaken. God is at work through you to prove that He is an unshakable foundation. And challenges are an opportunity to be unshakable in your courage, faith, and joy. Questions to think about. Will you live with unshakable courage and faith? And second, is your joy built on an unshakable foundation? The sixth perspective, God is at work through you to advance the gospel. Challenges advance the gospel. God uses challenges to put us into circumstances and to have conversations that are opportunities for the gospel to spread. Philippians 1:12-14, written by Paul in prison. I want you to know, brothers, that what has happened to me has really served to advance the gospel, so that it has become known throughout the whole imperial guard and to all the rest that my imprisonment is for Christ. And most of the brothers, having become confident in the Lord by my imprisonment, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. Now, we may not be able to see what God is doing behind the scenes, but He is at work. Paul's challenges gave him an opportunity to be a light for Christ and to share the gospel in new places. His courage in those situations gave courage to other believers to be a light and a testimony. So whenever you face problems, remember that God may be putting you in a situation that's an opportunity to advance the gospel. God is working through you to be a light in the darkness. Illustration of this, when we were in South Africa working with HIV patients, the first day we went out to the hospice support group for AIDS patients with our kids, it's a day that I'll never forget. Our two older girls, Abby and Emily, were 4 and 5 at the time. They walked up and down the aisles greeting all the HIV patients seated on these rickety wooden benches. Now, we had prepared them and we had talked with them about how to be careful about open wounds and cuts and things like that. And they knew to be careful of this, but we really didn't anticipate all the hugs, all the handshakes they were going to get. And as HIV positive patients hug your kids, you realize that, while precautions are wise, they're not foolproof. And at that moment, we had to fully entrust our family to God. He had called us to minister to those people, and we knew that He would keep us and our kids as safe as He deemed best. We had to trust His heart. And our natural tendency was probably to pull back towards safety, but we knew that that was exactly where God wanted us to be at that time. And that simple act of faith of letting our kids greet these AIDS patients, people that were ostracized and shunned by everyone else, that simple act of faith opened doors for the gospel for years to come after that. Because bringing what was most valuable to us, our kids, showed love to these hurting people, and it opened doors for the gospel. Challenges are opportunities to show Christ. Getting things done isn't the goal. Showing Christ is the goal. So even in the midst of trials, challenges, or getting nothing done, the true goal can still be accomplished. Paul's aim to know Him and make Him known. Says Philippians 1:8, what then? Only that in every way, whether pretense or truth, Christ is proclaimed, and in that I rejoice. We have to remember our goal. God is at work through you to advance the gospel. Challenges advance the gospel. So is your goal comfort or making much of Christ? God is at work through you. God is at work around you, in you, and through you. And just to remember that to God, your challenges, they're not the problem. It's the plan. It is growing you. Trust God's process. God's got this. Challenges are not outside God's control. They're perfectly planned by a perfect God. And this was the strategy that God has used throughout history. I don't anticipate a change in the Trinity anytime soon there. You can't always change what's happening to you. Challenges arrive, tough things happen. But if you change your perspective, it'll change how you feel about your challenges. And if you change how you feel about your challenges, your actions and your reactions that flow from your feelings and emotions, they're also going to change. Changing your perspective will build strength, resilience, and grit. Change your perspective, change your life. God is at work around you, in you, and through you. Hi, everyone. I've got some exciting news. My new book, Godly Grit, should, Lord willing, launch on March 3rd, 2026. I want to be honest, writing this book has completely changed my life and my leadership. This is the book I wish I had before starting a ministry and leadership. It's also what I wish I had when learning to navigate life's daily challenges. We all face regular challenges that drain our joy and tempt us to quit. If you're serving God, there will be days that you dream of easier roles and fewer problems. The goal of Godly Grit is to deepen your roots of faith so that you can be unshakable in the face of challenges. Psalm 16:8 says, I have set the Lord always before me. Because he's at my right hand, I shall not be shaken. If you feel called to live for Christ and lead others to follow him, the key is not escaping challenges, but growing in strength, courage, resilience, and grit to overcome them. No matter where you are in life, you can grow godly grit. I pray that the comfort that God has given me through these truths will also comfort you. Even without comfortable circumstances, you can have inner comfort. And as you do, you will grow godly grit to face whatever challenges come your way. Well, that's all for this show, and we want to thank you again for spending your valuable time with us today.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider taking just a moment and giving us a great review. Your review will help people find the podcast and allow these resources to encourage more people. If you took something valuable away from this episode, please share it with someone who would enjoy it.
If you'd like to find the show notes, blog posts, and free resources for ministry and leadership, as well as some information on my book, Overflowing, visit KyleFarran.com. That's KyleFarran.com. Hope to see you soon on a future podcast.